Good morning from Yami BTV. Wishing you all well, of course. Now, this is a sensitive subject. I'm going to do the best I can with this one. Many of you asking me to balance it out in the best way I can, and I've been brainstorming. But it is a hard one to, find a final answer on. And we talked specifically in the first part of this video of so-called gangster murdering gangster rivals or criminal murdering fellow criminals. But we start with probably a case that's really, definitely a case that's well spoken about now. And what I get at in this first part is someone does the murdering, which leaves a dead man or woman, and they have a wife and kids, and maybe, or the case I'm talking about now, the kids were very, very young. But how different sides of the coin, if you're doing the murdering, how do your kids feel when they grow up and know that you murdered somebody, and then never getting over the other side of the coin where it's your dad or mum that's been murdered? How do you really feel? How do you ever come to terms with it? So we talked George Cornell and getting blown away by a gunshot fire in a crowded pub way back in the day by the Cray twins in full view of everyone. So you got he had a wife, I think her name was Olive, right? Don't quote me on that. Her surname was Myers, right? He left a 6-month-old daughter, Raina, who was the first EastEnder Lucy, right? EastEnders TV program, first Lucy to play that part, right? And a son who was 7 years at the time. Raina was 6 months old. Billy was 7. Now, Billy comes out 50 years later and said it ripped our families apart. We've been haunted by it forever because, that George Cornell's wife was brokenhearted and died very, very early. So it left Raina and Billy without mum and dad. So when Reggie and Ronnie cried, it's a big one. Raina, I say, rightly says, good. I'm going to dance. I feel to dance on it. I'm going to go dancing on their graves. Woo. And Billy, like I said, says his bit. Now, that's the victims. The siblings of the victim never recovered from the shit life we talk about on Yami BTV, right? But how do they feel then? If you're the murderer and your kids are growing up and you're being labelled, your dad's a murderer, he killed. How do they see it? Is it installed in them by their parents? Yeah, we had it coming. He disrespected us. It was either us or them. But on that one there, that was just sending out a big, massive message. The only reason that you would go into a crowded place is to gain more notoriety or put the fear of God up people to say, look, we're that powerful, we can shoot you in front of people because nobody's going to go to court and talk. Or you're loose cannons and you're basically on drugs or taking pills and that kind of stuff. But either way, it come back to haunt you anyway, and you still got the rest of your life and died in prison, amongst other things as well. But is there any way that we could say one side's fairer than the other? Apart from that, there shouldn't be murders of that kind. And what about the victims, the siblings of people like me and us committing such terrible acts where both parties, families, children are affected in different ways, but it probably amounts to the same thing. You get picked on. When you're a school kid, you're going to the playground. I'm going to bring this up in an interview this week. Get ready for it. Young ladies that I'm going on their show, they're coming on mine. I think I've told you already. But why would you want to do things in blatant public anyway? You can't be thinking straight, but it's a whole lot another story, right? It's very different to now, where as in but you always get nicked. Most murders are solved, right? During those days, there's no social media, TV or anything. You only knew your own neighborhood or nearby neighborhoods. Now there's social media where you can all around the world and you can learn more knowledge about the murders, the senseless ones, the knives, the shootings and everything. So which would have been them days. Checking up this morning, a man tells me an island in the 60s, prisons, had about 400 prisoners in it. In England, around about the 60s and 70s, 40,000 or so. So we could see the escalation of where it's gone. But in thinking, like, if I was going to just get this video done quickly, the other thing that's become apparent to me in recent years since I've been out is the amount of kids that have lost dads, mums to that so-called gangster life, never got to see their dads, never only they get little snippets from what they hear. They never know what's fact or fiction, what's the truth. And it leaves me, and they do come to me, and wives of, domestic abusers who beat their women regularly, their wives and things, with all the charge sheets and all that. I said, Uncle Yami, look what he done to me. This is the man that's doing things. But, right? Oh, God, don't tell me you're losing your train of thought, Yam. When you speak about dead people, there are, and they're in true crime, so to speak, and murdered by some, or them being, their father being the murderer. When these people are dead, mum and dad, and people go up there and speak about the dead. Now, I speak about the dead, but I always try to make sure if I've got nothing good to say, don't say it at all. That's why they tell me thanks for saying what you did, because it gives us a little bit of closure, Uncle Yami. And, daughters, sons, who are still hurt today because I know what it's like to have not the family that you crave. It's a big thing in people's lives. Now, if you're going to go up there and talk ill of the dead, and the old saying that dead men tell no tales, you'd have to be thinking about the crying that goes down the telephone when they phone me. I'm talking about 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 90-year-olds, 20. I don't like what they're saying about my dad, Uncle Yami. I don't like what they're saying about my mum. They're being portrayed in a way that I don't really like, and it's not really the facts and that kind of stuff. So it's just a whole lot of knock on the fence. I'm a bit jumbled this morning, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And I started with that case there. But surely now, dead men tell no tales. And sometimes I think I talk about the men that I met in prison and that have served, that were doing life for murders. And I just talk about them as men, what I saw in there, not so much about their crimes on the out, but then sometimes you got to hold your hands up, and then by telling stories from the prison side of things, which I had permission most of the time, maybe the victims of some of them probably wouldn't be too happy with me either, but then sometimes you wish you would have known then what you know now in reality. But definitely, you can't speak about the dead in a way where there's still families, in a bad way, you know what I mean? So that's what I really mean. So I'm coming up very shortly again. I'm sure you understand what I mean.